Hello and welcome to this video, which is a very special one for me actually, and I am taking you through some pictures and videos from my first ever car race. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to race cars, and it's 15 years this year since I took part in my first ever kart race back at Oulton Park in 2005. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad I'm finally there. So, as you may have guessed from the picture, I am racing a Ford KA in the EnduroKA series, which is a championship, endurance championship, with races ranging from 5 hours to 12 hours long across the country. So here's just a little view inside the car, fully stripped out. It's got a standard Ford KA engine, but upgraded brakes, suspension. Obviously it's very, very light with not much else in it other than a seat. And it's fantastic in the corners, it really is. Obviously not much power on the straights, but cornering ability is fantastic. So I'm driving with IP Racing, which has 2 cars entered into the championship this year. And we have a Spitfire themed livery based on Fly Spitfire up at Biggin Hill. And these are a few images from when we went up there. Have a look around the workshop, and it is really fantastic actually seeing Spitfires made. But anyway, back to the racing, and before I could take part in my first race, I had to first do my ARDS test to get my race licence. And unfortunately I was supposed to do this back in April, but because of the whole coronavirus thing, it kept being delayed because you have to sit in a car with an instructor. And I actually ended up missing the first round of EnduroKA at Snetterton because of this. But eventually we got out, got the test sorted, and then up to Oulton Park.
Okay, Ollie's out there, just as passenger at the moment. The instructor's showing him the lines and the turning points. And then it's Ollie's go to show the instructor the real proper lines at the turning points. I think I might time him, see if compare the times. Right, Ollie's in the car now. I timed him on his first lap. It was slightly quicker than the instructor's lap. Good lines, mate.
So, the moment I've been waiting for a very long time, my first ever race day in a car. A mixture of excitement and nerves, really. I didn't get a chance to test the car at Oulton before this race, mainly due to the COVID thing and timing. And I actually ended up starting it. So you can see in this photo here, it's a rolling start. And here's me crossing the line to start the race from 13th place out of a grid of 34. And I will explain why I'm starting the race and why we're in 13th place due to the drama we had in qualifying. So there's 3 drivers in my car. Myself, Mark Furious 5Gs, Dave Bomber Harris, also known as Dangerous Dave. And both Dave and Mark had raced all of last year, so the plan was send them out in qualifying first, of which we've got an hour, and then I would go out third and have a little bit longer just to learn the track and get a bit more experience in the car as it's my first race. However, shortly into Dave's run in qualifying, we had a drive shaft failure. This meant the car had to be towed back to the pits, and I was not able to get out in qualifying. Now, every driver has to complete a minimum of 3 laps qualifying in order to compete in the race. This meant I had to complete my 3 laps behind a safety car at a slow pace, and then immediately start the race afterwards. The initial plan had been for me to go out in stint 2 because there'd be less pressure. but I was thrown in at the deep end, having to start the race with no experience of this circuit and not a single lap at full speed driven in the KA. So going into turn one on my first ever race, my eyes were basically glued to the brake lights of the car in front because I did not really know where I needed to be braking from, and that was my only indicator. So fortunately we got round the first lap without any contact, and I think I only lost maybe two places on the first lap. I lost another place on the second lap, I believe. And then from there, I started to settle down a little bit, start to get the hang of it. I started to realise, where I needed to brake, how fast I could take each corner. And I saw on the dash, the lap times started coming down and down. And eventually, I started building a gap to the car behind me and catching up with the car in front. Then we had a safety car. I think two cars up front had taken each other out, meaning I gained a couple of places. And the safety car enabled me to catch up to the car in front of me. And at this point, as I started improving my lap times, once the safety car went in, I was able to keep up with him and eventually got past him as well. Dave come on the radio and said, "Good job, Ollie. Keep it up," and told me I was now in P7, I believe. So, we've gone from 13th to 7th, and it was looking pretty good at this point. I was really getting into a rhythm, really enjoying it out there. Obviously, the heat was a big factor, so, physically it was very tough, but I was finding my rhythm and putting in consistent times. Then we had another safety car, which again helped me catch up to the others in front. As the safety car came in, I was fourth in the train. I think one of the cars in front was a lapped car, but very quickly I managed to pass the cars in front and ended up in P1. And I couldn't believe it really. I saw the team hang the board over on the start-finish line to say car 31 in P1. And it was such a great feeling to be in the lead in my first ever race. And looking back at the timesheets, at this point, I was actually the fastest car on track for quite a few laps. And by the end of my stint, after I think an hour and 40 in the car, I'd actually led the race for 30 minutes. Next up in the car was Dave, followed by Mark for the final stint. And after the 5 hours, we eventually finished in 6th place, which I was delighted with. 6th out of 34 for my first ever race. In terms of how I drove and my own performance, I couldn't have been happier really. As a team, we were a little bit unfortunate with the final pit stop. There were a couple of safety cars that we weren't able to take advantage of, unfortunately, so I lost a little bit of time, and perhaps might have ended up on the podium. So there's definitely a few lessons we can learn going into the next one and future races, and I can't wait to get back out there. Hopefully for the next race we will remember to switch on the onboard cameras too, and give you some onboard footage from the race itself.